Marriage isn't worth it. That's the story, that's the vibe of many of the guys who have been hurt in either their current marriage or one in the past. And I get that. And a lot of the times, the big reason that men give is that, it's just too expensive and they're just not going to take that risk again. And I keep telling you guys over and over, being the advocate for marriage that I am, that I know that this might be what it appears, but it's not necessarily what the stats say. So I found a really great article, and everything that I do on this podcast, I do research very extensively to give you guys the most up-to-date and fact-based things. I don't want to just be sharing things with you that are only my opinion, but I want to see if the stats back up these ideas. And so I'm going to share with you today this article is from the Institute of Family Studies. So this is the actual article we're going to be going over today. And let's just go ahead and get going. It has an intro. We don't need that. The first thing we're all going to talk about is money. All you guys are so worried about getting screwed over that this no-fault divorce where a woman can leave at any time and it's going to financially devastate you. But according to this isn't the case. What happens here is that you'll see highlighted in red, it says married men earn between 10 and 40% more compared to single men. They call this a marriage premium. And you'll see over here this bar graph where it's comparing the median wealth by marital status. Now this is in 2004 dollars, so this obviously would look much different now. But the fact is, the men who have never been married, their median wealth, it was 36,000 plus. And then you see men in first marriages, look at this jump here, guys. This is in the median wealth, $167,000 comparing to never before married men. And ironically, this is a big thing, this black. Even in the case, if you go into a divorce, you're going to see here that even if at the end of the day, your wealth gets cut in half and she takes half and you take half, you're still ahead. You're at $48,000 in median wealth compared to men who never got married in the first place. So there absolutely is a hit to the money side of things. It's not quite the hit that you think it is. In fact, you're still going to be better off than had you never gotten married to begin with. At least statistically. I don't know what your particular case is. So that's one thing there that is very important to highlight. So what we've learned in this money section is that if you are a married man, you are going to be earning 10 to 40% more than a single man. And then also, as far as pure wealth buildup, that married men do substantially over $130,000 more in wealth than non-married men. And even if you were to get divorced at the end of the day, you're still going to be in a better position had you not gotten married to begin with. Let's go ahead and move on to divorce here. It says here that about 42% of first marriages end in divorce, but actually divorces have gone down over the last 20 years. But I think here it highlights a really good point where it says men who do their best to hold down a stable job, who don't abuse drugs or alcohol, who are sexually faithful, who attend religious services regularly with their wives, who make a regular effort to be emotionally engaged in a marriage are less likely to divorce. This is kind of like a dad. Like, these are the basics. These are the things. You don't even have to do anything really above and beyond. Go to work, have a good job, don't do drugs, attend church. That's just kind of like low level. That's low tier there. Like, basically, if you do your basics, you're probably going to be okay. So let's go ahead and talk about sex. Single guys versus cohabitating guys, because many people are choosing to cohabitate instead of marrying. And is there an impact to your sex life for men who are cohabitating versus men who are just married? So let's go ahead and go to the graph here. And the question they're asking is, how satisfied are you with your sex life? So according to this survey, 52% of cohabitating young men ages 20 to 39 have sex at least twice a week, compared to 42% of married men. All right, so initially it kind of looks like cohabitation has an edge in this sex game, 52% to 42%. So it looks like, as far as sex, that maybe the cohabitating men have a little bit of an advantage, but this actually doesn't come into play when it comes to the actual satisfaction and quality of the sex. Because here it says that on average, the quality of married sex trumps that of unmarried sex. Sex when you're married is very fulfilling. Like that, I don't know any other word to say. I don't know how else to describe it. A majority of married men also found sex extremely physically pleasurable compared to a minority of men in unmarried relationships. And this is an important factor because we're kind of led to believe like the goal is to go out and get as much as you can and get laid, and that going out and paying as many women as possible and the novelty factor is going to make you the most fulfilled. And it doesn't. If you look at around society at maybe famous people or celebrities or men who make a lot of money, they typically can go out and really like get any woman, right? They're going to have kind of their pick of the litter because they are so wealthy. Going out and having the novelty of sleeping with multiple different women is the primary goal and the most satisfying. How come wealthy men, like truly wealthy, I'm talking about like billionaires, how come they end up typically getting married and settling down with one woman? They realize that the novelty is not where it's at. The true satisfaction comes from sticking with the one person and just really like learning them and enjoying them. And it's extremely satisfying. So here is the graph that says that men reporting they're extremely satisfied with the physical quality of their sex lives. 43% of single men, 54% of married men, and 44% of cohabitating. Because society will tell us that living together is the same as marriage. So what's the point? There's no need to get the government involved. And I'm telling you, marriage feels different. When a man says, my wife, there's a much greater significance to that than saying my girlfriend. There's a much different thought process and commitment level and dedication in a man's mind and a woman's mind. Marriage feels different because it is different. So whoever wants to continue trying to sell people on the idea that living together is just the same, they are gravely mistaken. Are you a married man who is stuck in a sexless marriage? Well, if so, you certainly are not alone. Listen, seducing a woman once is hard enough, but maintaining that desire for years, if not decades, is a whole different game. It's a game of knowledge and skill, and nobody teaches men how to do this. Not your parents, not society, and certainly not the woman that you're married to. I'm Monica Almaguer. I've been teaching thousands of men the specific tips, tools, and techniques to create a hot, steamy marriage on my podcast, Modern Marriage with Monica. But now I've taken all of that information, those thousands of hours, and really have just distilled everything that you need to move the needle in your relationship with your wife into one simple course. And before you ask, no, your wife doesn't need to know or be on board. It requires nothing from her. In my course, How to Create and Maintain Long-Term Sexual Attraction, I give you all the information, all the tools, not just for right now, but for years. Let me just go over a couple of the things that you're gonna learn in my course. The first thing is the 6 pillars of long-term attraction. We're gonna go over the proper expectations. We're gonna go over how women really work, polarity, the proper masculine and feminine dynamic. I've put together everything you need to create this environment in which your marriage and your sex life is not only just going to survive, but thrive. If this is something that you would like more information on, go ahead and hit that button below. Now, here's a part I want to point out, is that women are 4 times as likely as men to make love a requirement for having sex. And marriage is obviously a venue in which women are going to feel the love necessary for sexual engagement. In other words, they have to have that emotional connection as a requirement in which they're wanting to have sex. I just did a whole video about emotional connection. It's a big block if it's not there. If you think about like how good can sex really be in a one-night stand? You don't know anything about the body. You haven't figured it out. Every woman is different. I mean, we already have the orgasm gap between men and women. The longer you practice and figure each other out, like it just makes sense that you know what works. So this makes sense to me. So while novelty is a thing, it's pretty clear that men's overall emotional and physical satisfaction is going to be the greatest in a marriage. So let's go ahead and move on to the physical and mental health benefits for men. So men don't just enjoy a better sex life in marriage, they also enjoy better physical and mental health. Right here it says research suggests that men who get and stay married live almost 10 years longer than their unmarried peers. 10 years? That's huge. And this also holds true when they get a very serious illness like a cancer, when in comparison to an unmarried man, the unmarried man doesn't do as well. So here it says that the married people appear to manage illness better, monitor each other's health, and adopt healthier lifestyles. I mean, this is true. Like, how many women of us nag? The guys will just not go to the doctor. They'll put it off. Even simple things like health maintenance. But the woman will finally nag them to death, or even make the appointment and get them to the doctor. Or even such thing as optimizing your health. I know I was the one that 2 years ago, I'd noticed that my husband, he was just not quite as upbeat, a little bit more grumpy, getting a little bit more irritated easily. And I'm like, hey, you might want to get your hormones checked. And indeed, his testosterone was low. So when men have a wife and care about you and nag you in a good way to go and get your health taken care of, 10 extra years is no joke. So let's look over here at this bar where they're saying men reporting they are very happy with life. Here we only have 20% of single guys reporting that. Granted, this is 20 years old. I would say that that probably is less now. I don't think a lot of single guys are very happy. 43% of married men are very happy, 21% of cohabitating men. This is just not a 1 or 2 percentage basis here. A lot of times these perceptions do not reflect reality. So here's the conclusion right here. Yet too many men still believe in the ball and chain myth, viewing marriage as an expensive encumbrance on their freedom and their sex lives. And these views are ubiquitous in popular culture. And this has undoubtedly had adverse consequences for men's aspirations to marriage. We see this now where men have opted out, or heck, they're not even dating. They're not even getting that first step down the road. And what they were trying to accomplish with this paper was to create a counter narrative to how wonderful and amazing and blessed men are who are married. I will say that the flaw that I'm seeing in this article, in this study, is that they are surveying couples of the ages 20 to 39. These are not couples who have to deal with such things as menopause, where the sex goes to shit, and having to deal and navigate through that. We don't see that element reflected in this. So that is probably the one thing I would really like to see, maybe the same type of study or the same kind of survey done in the population from 50 on, because we do know that the occurrence of what's called the gray divorces are increasing. So I'd be very interested to see how that would reflect in the numbers. So what do you think? Do you think that this article is valid, or do you think it's a load of crap? Let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, you might as well hit that like and subscribe button. And of course, I'll just see you next time.